So the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, boy that's a mouthful, issued new rules this week to target Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. While their new rulings don't name her specifically, they're very much targeted at what she did and how she was elected. For those of you unfamiliar, AOC was elected by primarying an existing Democrat. Essentially what that means is that she ran against in a race that already had another Democrat running, so they had to have a primary election. And then once she won that race, it was a blue district and there were no Republicans running, so she won by default. And this is a way for people who have less money to get elected to Congress, because it's much cheaper to run in a primary race than it is to run in a full general election and a primary. You have a much smaller pool of voters you're trying to target. You're only trying to target Democrat primary voters rather than all voters in the district, so it becomes a lot easier. The DCC doesn't like this, however, because the losers in these sorts of cases are existing Democrats, and in the case of AOC, she unseated a pretty high-ranking Democrat in the House. So according to the new rules, any contractors, i.e., people who will make ads or mailers or consultants who work with candidates trying to primary existing Democrats, they will be blacklisted by the DCCC, so that they will no longer be able to work with with congressional Democrats, or at least with the DCCC overall organization. And this, of course, is a big chunk of money that goes out to campaign consultants and things. You want to be working with either the Democratic or the Republican congressional campaign committees, because that's where a lot of the campaign money comes from. So what the DCCC is telling the contractors, the consultants, and all those people, that whole political industrial complex, they're telling them either you work with these insurgent primary challengers or you work with the Democratic Party, but not both. Now, the DCCC can't bar individual Democratic representatives from contracting with these blacklisted firms. However, most of your congressmen rely on their party's congressional campaign committee for most of the heavy lifting in their campaign. So it's a rather small pool of representatives who contract for their own consultants and things, relative to how many consultants and other contractors are paid directly by the DCCC or the RCCC. So this, of course, was meant as a major blow against people like AOC, because, of course, she said that she was going to help other insurgent Democrats try and unseat more centrist Democrats in the coming 2020 election. The goal of being kind of like the Tea Party, of shifting the party, in the Tea Party's case, further to the right, and in AOC's case, further to the left, by primarying existing candidates. But now they're going to have a lot more trouble trying to find consultants and other contractors to work with them on those campaigns. Now, I think that this is actually a good thing for AOC and her efforts, despite what the Democrats' intentions were. The reason for this is that consultants have a very heavy sway over what candidates' policies are and how they campaign. A lot of more radical candidates get tempered by consultants who tell them to move to the middle and to triangulate. However, considering that most of the more moderate leaning consultants like that will want to work with the DCCC, they won't be interested in working with any of these insurgent upstart candidates at all. So therefore, the only people who are going to be willing to take the hit of the blacklist from the DCCC are going to be people who wouldn't have been hired by the DCCC to begin with, i.e. real left-wingers. Now, I'm not so sure that having more ideological campaign contractors will necessarily help these people's campaigns. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of the consultants are so moderate, and that's because in a lot of races, the more moderate candidate tends to win. But I think for the folks like AOC and Ilhan Omar and the other new progressive representatives, that sort of a victory would be kind of pointless. They'd rather lose on their principles, I think, than win on lies. So since all these moderates are going to be essentially uninterested in working with them, their candidates will be able to keep their left-wing edge. And perhaps I think in some races that will really help them. Most of the time, however, that's not going to be that popular. I mean, there aren't too many people interested in America in abolishing, the use of fossil fuels, for example. Most people recognize that without fossil fuels, the planet wouldn't be able to produce enough food to sustain the population, and that there would be a mass extinction event. But that's beside the point. I think it'll be interesting to watch now in the future just how the new Democrat insurgent candidates are going to react to this new ruling, and it'll be interesting to see if they end up hiring a lot more left-wing people. Now, of course, counterfactual, we can't know if they would have hired more moderate consultants to begin with, but now we know that's no longer an option. So if you gained anything of value from this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and subscribing, since I do upload every day. I certainly hope to see you all tomorrow.